The American dream is in trouble. Politicians at the federal, state, and local level have been mortgaging our future by spending too much money and catering to special interest. One result of excessive government is a bloated civil service with excessively high pay and benefits. The government workforce, for all intents and purposes, has become an elite island of privilege financed by beleaguered private sector American workers. This Center for Freedom and Prosperity video is going to examine one of the main challenges we face if we want to rein in big government. To be blunt, we have too many government workers and they are paid way too much. I'm Dan Mitchell of the Cato Institute. Let's start with some depressing numbers. This chart shows the number of federal government bureaucrats over time. This doesn't seem too outlandish, but these numbers don't include military personnel, the Postal Service, federal contractors, and subsidy recipients. Paul Light of New York University calculates that while there are 2 million civilians employed by the federal government, there are another 11 million people whose paychecks come from Uncle Sam. But in this video, let's just concentrate on the official civil service. The chart you now see shows a big gap, and it's getting bigger every year, between average pay for federal bureaucrats versus private sector pay. But if you think that's bad, let's look at the chart comparing total compensation, which includes fringe benefits. Official data show that federal workers are making twice as much on average as the taxpayers who pay their salaries. Some of the numbers are truly shocking. Nearly 20% of federal bureaucrats make more than $100,000 per year. An investigation by USA Today, meanwhile, found that the number of bureaucrats earning more than $150,000 a year has doubled in just 2 years. And do we really need nearly 1,700 Department of Transportation bureaucrats making more than $170,000 each? Heck, we shouldn't even have a federal Department of Transportation. State and local bureaucrats also are riding on the gravy train, particularly with their lavish retirement packages. According to government data, state and local government workers make 45% more per hour than people in the productive sector. State and local workers typically retire at 55 and receive decades worth of benefits at taxpayer expense. But these pension plans are ticking time bombs because politicians have vastly underfunded and overpromised these benefits. According to the official estimates, the shortfall is about $1 trillion. But academic scholars have dug into the numbers and found that the real gap is about $3 trillion, or $28,000 for every household in the nation. State and local bureaucrats may not get paid as much as their counterparts in Washington, but they certainly know how to fleece taxpayers. Some government workers in Massachusetts, for instance, figured out how to scam the system for more than $100,000 in annual overtime. A few California bureaucrats, meanwhile, learned to milk the system to get six-figure payments for unused vacation time. And speaking of California, that state has more than 15,000 retired bureaucrats getting pensions of more than $100,000 every year. As the old saying goes, nice work if you can get it. Some statists talk about two Americas of rich and poor. In fact, the two Americas are insiders and outsiders of government. 6 of America's 10 richest communities are suburbs of Washington because of all the high-paid government workers and lobbyists. Let's now add some insult to injury to all these depressing numbers. Not only are government bureaucrats overpaid, and not only are there too many of them, but it's almost impossible to fire them. One report revealed that the Los Angeles School District, which does a terrible job educating, or should I say not educating children, has only tried to fire 7 teachers in the past 10 years, only succeeded in getting rid of 4 of them, and it cost $3.5 million. But that's just one example. The nationwide Department of Labor data reveal that workers in the private sector are almost 4 times more likely to get terminated, which says a lot about the slack rules for bureaucrats. By the way, let's address the counter-argument of the government employee unions. They actually claim that bureaucrats are underpaid based on some non-transparent estimates concocted by the bureaucracy in charge of the federal workforce. While it's tempting to automatically dismiss this claim after all the data we've looked at, let's look at some additional objective evidence. The Bureau of Labor Statistics maintains data showing the probability of leaving jobs voluntarily. If bureaucrats were really getting underpaid, you would expect a lot of attrition as they left their supposedly low-paid government jobs to get better compensation in the private sector. Not surprisingly, this data shows that unions are blowing smoke. People in the private sector are 6 times more likely than federal bureaucrats to switch jobs and 3 times more likely than state and local bureaucrats. Let's close with the most important argument of all. The right pay for most federal bureaucrats should be 0. Not because they are bad people or anything like that, but because they